Finally, we get to see the real Boston Celtics. And if you thought maybe the team wasn't really seeing everything that we saw, I got proof from Joe Mazzulla, from Jaylen Brown. Going to talk about that. Going to talk about the potential end of the double big lineups. Is that something that's in the offing? It's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And I'm here for you every day with a free, fresh podcast dropped directly to your device if you are a subscriber. So make sure you're subscribed to get that show as soon as it drops. Same thing on YouTube. Ring the bell, get notified, and have fun in the comments. Talk about the game, talk about the whatever I'm talking about in the podcast, talk about me. I don't care. It's all right there on the YouTube page, so join in. I'm John Karalis. I played professional basketball a long time ago, and now I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal, and I've written a book called The Boston Celtics All-Time All-Stars. Today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate Basketball GM. If you've ever dreamed of becoming an NBA GM and managing your own basketball franchise, then this is the game for you. Download it at ultimatebasketballgm.com. or look it up on the app stores. You will get a 100% free boost to your franchise if you use the promo code Locked On, all caps, Locked On, in the game. Celtics get the big win in Sacramento, 132-109. Later on, I'll get into the potential end of the double big lineup side. I've been talking about double big. I want to get back to the double big. I want the Smart, Jaylen, Jayson, Rob, Al lineup. But there's reason to believe that might not be in the cards in the Celtics' future. I don't know. We'll talk about that in the last segment. In the second segment, I will talk about some of the more individual performances: Tatum, Brown, Marcus Smart, Derrick White. Lots of performances to talk about there individually. I want to start with, as I like to start with, the big picture, the big takeaway, my big kind of prevailing thought from this game. And it's basically, it's a finally, the Celtics proved my point, your point. You've been making the same points that I've been making. I'm not the only person who's been saying this kind of stuff, but I have been saying this stuff. Play with pace. Attack the basket. Three-pointers should come off of paint touches for the most part, understanding that nothing is universal. All that stuff. All of that stuff. They did it. They showed that it's possible. I understand. The Sacramento Kings were on their fifth game in 7 nights. That cannot be ignored. The Kings are one of the worst defenses in the league. They came into the night 25th in defensive efficiency. So this was set up for the Celtics. But we know the Celtics love to make things hard on themselves. They will always take the harder road, it seems. I've talked about that. I've written about that. They came into this game doing what they're supposed to do. This was a no mercy kind of game. This was I don't care. Sorry that you have like the horrible schedule, and sorry that this is probably a schedule loss. If I'm the Kings, I probably look at this and I say, hey man, no Kevin Huerter, who's important to space the floor. The second back-to-back in a week, that's brutal. Coming from Utah back home to Sacramento to play this game, that's tough. I'm kind of blowing this game off if I'm a Kings. If I'm doing Locked On Kings, which you should listen to, by the way. Matt does a great job there. I'm kind of thinking, not a big, you figured this loss was coming. You take it, you absorb it, you move on, done. But for the Celtics, two reactions after the game tell me so much about where this team is right now. Joe Mazzulla, which the Celtics tweeted out, and he goes into the locker room and he basically says, that's the team that I know. That's the team. That's the maturity. He basically says what I'm saying right now. He's like, that what we just saw, that's who you're supposed to be. And Jaylen Brown walking off the court, talking to Abby Chin, says, that's the team that I recognize. That right there tells you everything. That tells you everything. They know how bad they've been. They know how poorly they've played. They know that there are inconceivable things happening here with this team. They know. So to hear them kind of acknowledge it, and afterwards in the actual press conference, Mazzulla was just like, well, if this game happened, if this road trip happened at the beginning of the season and we weren't in first place this whole time and we went 4-2, people would be happy. Like, yeah, but it didn't. It happened now. You can't say we should have perspective if this game happened, if this road trip happened at a different time and under different circumstances. Like, I get that. I do get that. And hey, coming off of this, I said coming into this trip, if they come out 4-2, that's the bare minimum. Got to 4-2. You have to at least do 4-2. Now, it wasn't the two losses, although I think the Utah loss is the one I chose. The Houston one was, I didn't think that, but I thought maybe the Sacramento game would be a loss. So whatever, 4-2. Yeah, I get it. Perspective. However, it is 9 games before the season is over. It is coming after you were in first place for so long. It is coming under these circumstances, and we can't blow that off. The fact that they came out and played like this shows us that they can come out and play like this. They have the wherewithal to do it. It's within them. They just have to want to. And a game like this, it almost tells on themselves. They almost tell on themselves by having a game like this, because it shows, it wasn't just because Sacramento was tired and not good at defense. It's because the Celtics actually decided, hey, we're going to attack. And maybe the road to the rim was a little bit easier than it would be against other teams, but the mentality was attack. And I'm not even worried about, okay, they're not going to look like this against the Milwaukee Bucks when they play them in a week, because Brook Lopez protects the rim, and that defense that Milwaukee puts out there is an elite level defense. And so it's not going to look like that. But the mentality that the Celtics have should still be there. They should still be how they want to attack. They should still be trying to get into the paint and collapse the defense and have the kickouts. That stuff should still be happening. And when it's not happening, that's an issue. But they shown in this game that they are willing to do it. And, if you settle for more threes if you take more threes against the Milwaukee Bucks, that's fine. It's the doing it against Houston. It's the doing it against Utah. When Utah, has their own deficiencies. It's doing it against these bad teams. When you know that there's a path to easy basketball, to easy buckets, and you still don't do it, that's the problem. The fact that they started doing it now, that's the problem. So it's nice to see them get back to this. This is great. This is the Tatum performance. I'm going to get into these individual performances, but the Tatum performance especially bucks the trend of what we've seen and what I've been complaining about here on the podcast. In fact, let's just use this opportunity. I'll get into these individual performances to kind of keep the point going. Celtics played great. They looked great. Everybody on the team knows how bad they've looked. And now they showed, hey, we can do it if we want to. The individual performances, that's all coming up next. First, today's show is brought to you by the Ultimate Pro Basketball GM. It's a great game for those of you who have dreamed about being a GM, managing your basketball franchise. Your dreams come true right here in this game. You can manage every strategic aspect of this team, play through the season, lead your team to glory, hire all the coaches, trade the players, train the players, make your picks, navigate your franchise through free agency and the draft, the ups and downs of the season. It's all of this in a challenging and realistic game world. The Ultimate Pro Basketball GM is completely free, playable offline, which is awesome, play on the go, and as often and how you want. You, Locked On Celtics listeners, you get 100% free boost to your franchise when you use the promo code Locked On. That's all caps, Locked On, in the game store. Make sure you check it out. Download the game, visit probasketballgm.com, scan the code. If you're watching on YouTube, scan the code there, or search for it on the App Store. It's probasketballgm.com. Ultimate Basketball GM. Start your dynasty today. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Check out Locked On NBA. Jake, Madison, and I are your Wednesday hosts. This is Wednesday. We did the Locked On NBA podcast. We talked about Damian Lillard and his comments after the team basically fell out of contention. We talked about the MVP voting and an interesting article on The Athletic about teams for voters for MVP and their kind of process for voting. I got a little heated in that one. And we also talked about Jaylen Brown and his comments in recent interviews, one that dropped on Tuesday with The Ringer. I will talk about that on this podcast tomorrow. I'm not getting into it right now because I want to just keep this focused on the game. There's a lot to get to. I understand that. I get into it on Locked On NBA. So check out the Locked On NBA podcast kind of as an appetizer. I'll get much more into it on tomorrow's Locked On Celtics podcast. Let's talk about the game here and the individual performances. Jaylen Brown, we might as well start with him since I'm talking about him right now. 27 points, 62.5% shooting, 4 of 7 from 3, 3 of 3 from the line. This is a great game from him all around. 27 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 turnover. What more can you ask for from Jaylen Brown in 34 minutes? Beautiful, beautiful. I thought Jaylen did a great job, again, attacking. Everything here is about attacking. He got to the rim. I think there was only 1 3-pointer where I was like, oh my God, and it went in. So, okay, all right, fine. But did a great job attacking, the 4 assists. There was 1 pass to Robert Williams that was just spectacular. I didn't even know how we got the ball through. But Jaylen and Jayson this is the type of game that one guy sits, the other guy's playing well, and vice versa. When these guys are playing like this, Celtics are impossible to beat. They combine for 63 points. You can't beat the Celtics when Tatum and Brown are combining for 63 points. You're certainly not going to beat them 4 games out of 7 in a series when they're playing like this. Too much. Jayson Tatum, what can I say about Tatum? This is the exact type of game you want to see from him. It was dominance. This was MVP level stuff. All of the stuff that I had been saying about him, this type of game can wipe all of that out. All of the isolation stuff, there was no ISO in this game. This was Tatum getting the ball on the move, and attacking. This wasn't just get the ball, swing it down between your legs, isolate, look for your opening, look for your offense. He got the ball on the move, he caught the ball on the move, and he made decisive moves, got to the rim. That's not isolation basketball. That's attacking as part of the team basketball. Just because you are scoring in an individual situation, that's not isolation basketball. That's getting the ball, being decisive, and attacking. And yeah, if he goes through 2-3 guys, that's great. But that's not isolation basketball. And people get that confused. Isolation basketball is everybody get out of my way. It's me, it's this guy. I want 4 guys standing on that side of the floor while I get this matchup over here. Kind of like when Jaylen and Jayson went at each other in the All-Star game. You just tell everybody to leave, and I'm going to cook. That's not what happened here. Don't get isolation and great individual play mixed up. It's different. Tatum made some great individual moves. He got the ball. He played with great pace. When he decided to attack, he just went at gaps in the defense and was relentless about it. That is, when I talk about the MVP, that's the MVP. That guy, that Tatum, that guy is the one that played against Sacramento. That type of player, the attitude, the decisions that he made, that guy is an MVP level player. And I'm not even talking about like he went 6 of 11 from the free throw line. That's an aberration. He'll hit 8, 9, 10 of those on most nights. 2 of 7 from 3. All right. Well, if he'd hit one more, he would have been 3 of 7 from 3, and that would have been an acceptable number. Not too worried about that. He had a stretch in the early part of the game where, yeah, he took some bad ones. The Celtics had a bad stretch early at the first quarter where they kind of started to get away from their offense. A lot of one-pass three-pointers. Tatum was kind of in that little lull, that little it didn't look like at that point that this game was going to go the way it did. It looked like at that point that we were going to have another one of these types of games. And I'm glad that they got out of it. It's a nice adjustment for them to get out of it. But a couple of these Tatum three-pointers, I'd say were not great. But sometimes here's the thing about a guy like Tatum. Sometimes you have to live with the tough shots because he's capable of making the tough shots. And you don't want to see him taking nothing but tough shots. This is the balance. This is the stuff that I was talking about. This is the stuff that I wrote about on Boston Sports Journal. There is a balance. Sometimes he's going to make tough shots. Like the shot I talked about before with Jaylen. Tatum, Brown are capable of making some of those shots. They can't get too caught up in, well, I'm capable of doing this, so I'm going to keep doing it. That's not it. You can't just say, I'm capable of this, so I'm just going to keep doing this. No. You have to play within the flow of the game, and every once in a while, an opportunity shows up, and you take a shot that you are capable of, and if those start to fall, then you have an outrageous game. But we can't just have the pursuit of the outrageous game override all of the other things that you got to do to get to that point. Because what I want to see is a 25-point game with a couple of outrageous shots, and it becomes a 33-point game or a 36-point game. That kind of thing. So I'll just leave it at that. Because I'm going to run out of time. I want to talk about Derrick White, who was awesome again. 20 points, 12 assists. I think they gave him another assist because when I was writing this piece, when I was writing for Boston Sports Journal, I definitely looked it up and I saw 11 assists. In fact, I have the official box score. See, they send out no, they must have sent out an updated one. Okay, so he has 12 assists. I'm very confused right now because I thought he had 20 and 11. He's actually at 12 assists. So the Celtics have 33 assists on the night. The ball movement was great. He had 12 assists. Smart had 7 assists. That's where you want to be. You want to be in that high 20. Anything over 30 is an amazing night. 33 assists on 49 buckets. Derrick White, again, awesome. What more can you say about him? Marcus Smart, I thought, had a horrible start, an absolutely disgusting, terrible, horrible start. And he redeemed himself by settling down in the second half. I thought he was really good. I'll get into Robert Williams next because that goes into the double big discussion. I just want to also add the Celtics. Joe Mazzulla talks about the margins all the time. The Celtics won in the margins. They won the second chance points, actually points off of turnovers. It was 21. Celtics got 21 points to Sacramento 6. Offensive rebounding, the Celtics got one more offensive rebound, but 17 second chance points to Sacramento's 5. They beat them at the free throw line. They took 11 more shots. This is the big number here. The Celtics got 92 shots to Sacramento's 81. So they took 11 more shots. The Celtics made 10 of those. They were 49. They made 49 shots. The Kings made 39 shots. So you can, and this is not how it went, but you can say both teams at 39 and 81 are even, but the Celtics went and took 11 more shots and hit 10 more of those and went 49 of 92. And here's the thing. 9 of those 10 shots were 2-pointers. It's all about the attacking. It's all about getting to the rim. It's all about getting into the paint. Celtics were excellent at that. So winning in the margins, that's where the Celtics really win this game. Double big lineup. Is that something that's going away? Why there is some evidence here in this game, minuscule evidence, but possible. That's next. First, today's show brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, the official sportsbook partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. And I know a lot of you are listening in Massachusetts now. I got listeners around the country and around the world, but a big chunk of you are in Massachusetts where FanDuel is now legal. So if you're just signing up for FanDuel, you got to do it at FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's how you get a no sweat first bet of up to $1,000 in bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download that sportsbook app at FanDuel.com/lockedon. It's safe. It's secure. It's super easy to use. When you make when you win, you can get your money directly into your bank account within a couple of hours. So it's exactly what you want if you're going to be betting on sports. You can bet on anything, money line, individual point scorers, 3-pointers made. You can combine your bets for a bigger payout with the same game parlay. You can't miss out on this no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets. But you got to go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Just ask you to please, if you're going to do it, gamble responsibly. So the Celtics got Robert Williams back, and he was fine in this game. 7 rebounds. That's nice. Couple of offensive rebounds. Surprised he had no assists, but he moved the ball well. He did have 5 fouls, which is not unexpected with the pace of this game and coming back after missing 2.5 weeks. But he didn't start. And I don't know what to make of that because this was one of the final 10 games of the season. And if you're going to start ramping up for the playoffs, don't you want to start your starting lineup together? A starting lineup that has barely played, a starting lineup that has very few possessions together. Wouldn't you want to get those guys a little bit more continuity? I know that they went to the finals. I know that there's probably some carryover, but it's a different season. There's different motivations. There's different game plans. There's different play calls. There's a lot that's different. And you kind of want to get these guys up to speed together. Unless, is Robert Williams not going to get back into the starting lineup? Mazzulla kind of hinted at that before. And the first time he came back, there were other injuries, and it kind of pushed him into the starting lineup. So I think Mazzulla leaned into that, just all right, let's go with it. But he never seemed to be fully, at least outwardly, fully committed to that just being the starting lineup. I think he seemed open to playing a different style. I think that Mazzulla might actually be considering starting Smart and White and Horford and Brown and Tatum. I think that's a starting lineup that has worked for him. Having the two ball handlers in there has worked. It does create a different set of circumstances, like we saw early in this game where Marcus Smart gets pushed off the ball a little bit, maybe a little bit more than we might think, but or might want. But the ball movement, the pace of play, the spacing, that might just be what Mazzulla wants. And so for the first time this season, I'm actually thinking this might be how it goes. Robert Williams coming off the bench might be the plan. And it could change based on matchups. Playoffs are all about matchups. But if you're not starting him in this game and you're not getting him back into that lineup, then it's a missed opportunity. Even with the 20 minutes that he played, that's 20 minutes, or a majority of those 20 minutes, that could be getting those reps under these play calls. So this could change. You know what I mean? They're coming out and playing the Pacers on Friday, and he could be in the starting lineup, and this whole thing goes away. And you can say, well, this aged poorly. And I don't know. I'm just looking. I'm trying to put pieces together here. I'm trying to read the tea leaves. Maybe Rob as a weapon with Malcolm Brogdon, maybe that's the best usage of him right now. We do have to consider that, as much as I think the numbers support Rob in the starting lineup next to Al, he's missed so much of the season that things that have worked for the team, is it worth messing with that? Is Derrick White getting the starter minutes, is that more valuable than getting Rob the starter minutes? You could always close with Rob. You can use Rob differently throughout the course of the game, but maybe starting the game, maybe spreading the defense out and having the multiple ball handlers and having Al Horford with his incredible shooting ability. He was 3 of 5 in this game from 3, another 60% night. Maybe just having Horford out there as a spacer and playing 5 out. Maybe that's how they want to start the playoffs. Maybe that's how they want to start these games. I can hear the argument, and I can hear the argument the other way. And I guess to channel some of what Brad Stevens has said and what Joe Mazzulla probably would say, is that we probably overemphasize who starts. I do think the first 5 minutes of the game are important to set a tone, but at the same time, we've seen 20-point leads in the first quarter disappear. In today's NBA, is there any lead that's safe in today's NBA? Especially not how much does a team have to be up in the first half for that to be the end of the game? I don't know that there is a number anymore. So as much as I want to say, yeah, you got to come out and you got to set the tone, and that is important. You got to go set the tone and you want to seize that control of the game from the beginning. You want to dictate the pace. You want to have them on their heels. You want to have them reacting to what you're doing versus you reacting to what they're doing. At the same time, how much of that matters anymore with the propensity of the three-point shot and just how quickly things can change? Momentum is so different in today's game. So maybe Rob starting, not starting, maybe it's just a matter of, hey, let's get out there. Let's get that offense out there. Derrick White's a really good defender anyway. Unless you're playing maybe Philly, and even then, maybe that's also a game where you want to start Derrick White because, hey, you have Al Horford on Joel Embiid, and you got to force Philly to defend you. Who's going to defend Derrick White in that scenario? So I really am starting to believe that we might head into the playoffs fully healthy and see the Celtics keep Robert Williams off the bench. Maybe it's just a thing for this year. Maybe it's just a thing for these playoffs. Maybe it's just a matchup thing. I don't know, but I'm believing it's possible. So we'll see. Again, tomorrow I'll get more into the Jaylen Brown stuff, the comments, lots to unpack there. I don't think it's as dire as some people want to make it seem. Actually, I don't think it's bad at all. I don't think there's anything bad to come of that. So we'll get into some of that tomorrow. I'll tell you this. If I thought it was bad, I would have made room for it in this podcast. So you can, if you're sitting here and you're wondering, oh, John, we need to get your opinion on this. Okay, sure. Just, I guess, rest easy in knowing that I don't think it's that big of a deal. I really don't. But I understand. I kind of understand a little bit of what he's saying. So that's all tomorrow. Like I said, Locked On NBA has some of my initial thoughts in the last segment of the Locked On NBA podcast. So check that out. If you're not subscribed to this one yet, now's a great time to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Do it on YouTube as well. Hop into the comments. Growing Celtics community in the comments section. I love it. I love it when the threads pop up, when people are responding to one another. That's my favorite thing to see in the comments. So do that and share the podcast. Tell your friends and family and everybody that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here in the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.